critical mining processing. We are honored to have her here with us. Dr. Comfort, welcome and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Emmanuella. Thank you for the work you do, and thank you for your ongoing research, advocacy, and all in the critical mineral space and regarding gender. Thank you for all that you do. So, coming to your question, really, you see, the continent, Africa, holds an extraordinary share of these critical minerals. The global energy transition for Africa, it represents both opportunities, biggest opportunity really, and also responsibility. This is the biggest, I think, Africa has faced in decades. And as the whole world moves, toward cleaner technologies, we have electric vehicles coming up, we have solar systems. Everyone is moving into solar energy right now, even in Africa. We have battery storage issues. The demand generally for critical minerals like lithium, cobalt, graphite, all rare earths, the demand is expected to keep growing. It will keep growing and it will grow. In fact, statistics show that by 2050, we would have about 500% growth in this demand. So that's why I say Africa holds an extraordinary share of these minerals and should fully take responsibility at this time, this most important time in history. So for the continent, the energy transition means that Africa now has an opportunity to negotiate better terms, and we all now have opportunity to industrialize rapidly than before. And we have this opportunity to shift from being a raw material driven governance structure to stronger ESG compliance status in Africa. And also we have to fully shift into gender responsive frameworks as a continent, from the continental level to national level to communities level. I cannot emphasize this enough in everywhere that I have opportunity to speak, that gender responsive frameworks should be at the heart of every planning, at the heart of every regulation, at the heart of every financing, so that the benefits don't slip away as they did in other sectors like the oil and gas, in the West African region and other commodity booms that Africa has had. So this is a golden opportunity, Emmanuella. Over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Comfort, for that insight. My next question to ask: why is Africa so strategically important in global critical mining supply chains? And what opportunities does this present for the continent?
Yeah, like I say, it's a mixed opportunity and is also a threat in a way. But let me say this again, Africa is the future of critical minerals. It is globally known, and I can explain it in two ways, and it is both strategic. Number one is the resource reserve. Africa holds some of the world's largest cobalt, manganese, lithium, you can name it, copper deposits. It is in abundance in Africa. It is untapped, and it is really a potential that industries, both present and future innovators, look forward to harnessing. So number two, like I also have mentioned earlier, is that it is untapped. These mineral resources are currently in abundance and it is untapped. And we have untapped processing potentials in Africa. The world wants the minerals, Africa wants value addition. You can see what's going on all around the continent, governments are waking up and saying, no, it must be value addition. The gap between wanting the raw minerals and the value addition demand is exactly where our power lies in Africa, and we have to key into it. So countries like Zimbabwe, even Nigeria, where I'm from, the DRC as well, Namibia, Ghana, countries, even Rwanda, are already key players in demanding value addition. But the continent as a whole has not yet built the processing industries that we need, the refining capability, and the manufacturing prowess that is needed to say, yes, we must have value addition. These industries have not been built yet. So that poses a challenge on one hand. So at this moment, Africa is a global partner, in the critical mineral space. We are not a passive participant, because we are so blessed, but we need also to see how to fully attain the potential that Africa has when it comes to industrialization. Over to you, Emmanuella.
Thank you, Dr. Comfort. This is interesting. So you have consistently emphasized that gender and sustainability must not be treated as side issues. Why is a gender responsive strategy essential in Africa's critical mineral agenda?
It is a must, Emmanuella, I must say so, because without gender responsiveness, we are not it's not being inclusive, and it's just not a just transition anymore. So a gender responsive strategy ensures that the clean energy economy does not reproduce old inequalities that we have already had in Africa. Women make up significant portion of artisanal mining. In fact, a study that was done by Center LSD, Center for Leadership and Strategic Development, I think that's the full name. And they were looking at ESG, they were looking at community engagement during mining, and all of the sites they visited to be able to capture data, they found out that 90% of the artisanal miners at this site are women. They only went to the chief's palace and other locations where they could get other stakeholders to make inputs, and that's where they captured men, which means that women make a significant portion of artisanal mining in Africa as a whole, and they are small-scale miners. And then, as much as they have this involvement, they are underrepresented on the other side. On leadership side, you have little say from women. On value addition discussions and capabilities, you have very little percentage of women that could participate. On financing, it's even worse, because women-led organizations don't have what it takes to push and access financing. And then if you check procurement opportunities also, women are deficient or underrepresented in that space as well. So if Africa wants sustainable development, we cannot ignore the very people who are actually sustaining the mining economy at the community level. So gender responsiveness is a must. That's why the other time I said the Africa Green Mineral Strategy did not capture gender as a key component of the development of that document, which is not right. So the reason why we have to capture gender is enormous. Number one, like I said, the women constitute a majority artisanal small-scale miners, and if we have gender responsive strategy, it will help us increase women's participation in governance intentional, and it will ensure that women benefit from mining revenues, not only men. And also, it will reduce gender-based violence in mining communities once this becomes a major framework that is embedded in all plans, regulations, and implementation plans. It will improve occupational safety and if we have to progress and really be inclusive in the transition to critical minerals, then we cannot turn a blind eye to gender matters. It is incomplete strategy if we go in that way. Yeah, Emmanuella. Are you there? Can anyone hear me? I went off at some point. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am. That's right.
Okay. How do we do now?
We start from that question.
Okay.
Manuela, go.
Thank you, Dr. Comfort. This is interesting. So you have consistently emphasized that gender and sustainability must not be treated as side issues. Why is gender responsive strategy essential in Africa's critical mineral agenda?
Thank you so much. I'll take that again. The network went bad at some point. So I was saying that if we want to develop in Africa, we cannot ignore the very people who are actually sustaining the mining economy in Africa. And these are women. I mentioned earlier, I don't know if that was captured or heard, that there was a study done by Center LSD, Center for Leadership and Strategic Development. I hope that's the full name of the organization. And their study was to go around communities where mining takes place and find out if there's community engagement by mining companies, and even if they are in ASM, is there sufficient community involvement in the activities that they do? So this study required them to interview both artisanal and small-scale miners and also community leaders. So in that study, over 90% of the miners that were interviewed, because I watched the documentary myself, were women. Over 90% were women. The men were only interviewed when they had to go to the palace and talk with the chief or the community leaders. That's when men were featuring. What does this mean? It means that women make up a significant portion of artisanal and small-scale miners all across Africa, not just in that study location. It's a representative and it shows what is available. Also, I did a tour in Sierra Leone and found out that most of the gold miners and the diamond miners in Sierra Leone were women. Okay, though for fair trade issues is another discussion for another day. But today, a gender responsive strategy, if not considered, means that there is just transition. And I mentioned earlier that the Africa Green Mineral Strategy did not even at all capture gender issues. It was just mentioned in passing. And that's not, it means that we have not fully gotten the need to have fully gender responsive strategies in Africa. So that is the only way we can have clean energy economy that does not produce old inequalities that we already have in Africa. So since women make up the significant portion of ASM and they are not fully given the opportunity to lead, to be part of leadership, to have softer licensing, because that is needed. Women have to be considered because of so many other financial and cultural and many other reasons that they are unable to obtain licenses, and they are unable to get financing, and they are unable to even make a step further to say, yes, we want to be involved in value addition. These are impediments for women. So, and they are not able also to partake in procurement opportunities. And if Africa wants sustainable development, we cannot ignore us. We cannot ignore women because they are the actual people driving the mining economy in Africa as at today at community levels. So a strategy that is gender responsive, it must help us, it must capture and be able to help us to reduce gender-based violence at the mines. That is very critical and is number one, on the burner. And as such strategy also will help us to improve occupational safety that women are faced with. And it will increase women participation deliberately, intentionally in governance. In governance, women participation must be sought for and ensure that it is always being captured. And also it must ensure women benefit from from mining revenues and not only men. So we cannot be gender blind when we are planning for Africa or when we are planning for a community, a mining community or a national plan at every level. We cannot be gender blind because a gender blind critical mineral strategy is an incomplete strategy as it is. Over to you, Emmanuella.
Thank you, Dr. Comfort. Now, talking about ESG standards, how do global ESG standards, IFC, World Bank, OECD, and others shape the way African countries must now manage their mineral resources?
Thanks, Emmanuella. That's a very apt question to ask. Yes, there are standards. In fact, the global ESG standards are no longer optional. They are prerequisite for every investment, almost every investment, except it's self-funded by family and friends. Even family and friends are beginning to look at the global ESG standards for wherever their funding is going. So when you now go up the scale to institutions like the IFC, the World Bank, or African Development Bank, or OECD, and even the European Union, even if, the African Union, we have all raised the bar. Even the commercial banks, on the streets in Lagos, in Nairobi, everywhere else, they have all raised the bar, and they're all looking at climate risk exposure for their investment. They're looking at water efficiency and water use efficiency for their investment. They are looking at supply chain traceability now. These terminologies were alien before, but now is embedded in every investment decision that is being made. They want to know whether human rights and gender-based violence safeguards are captured in that investment plan. They want to know if there is gender disaggregated data and all of that environmental and social components of every investment. It is now been requested by investors. And African countries that have quickly aligned with these standards, they have more potential to attract capital. And they have more potential to attract long-term partnerships. Those who are left behind, maybe due to capacity or due to lack of interest, they are those that will really to take a long time for them to catch up. So all countries are now getting to comply with these standards. And it's not just a compliance matter, it is competitiveness now. Yeah, and it is before you can access global markets, these have become requirements. Thank you, Emmanuel, over to you.
Great. So many African countries still export raw minerals. From your technical and strategic perspective, what must Africa do to shift from extraction to value addition, processing, and manufacturing?
Yeah, Emmanuella, this question always comes up in every forum where we are discussing Africa, we are discussing critical minerals, and we are discussing value addition. I think, in my view, right now, the number one shift that we need in Africa is political will. It's political will. Yeah, because we have geopolitical issues and we have interest that comes up due to political ambitions and all that. It's political will is number one. And it's a political choice. Value addition is a political choice. Value addition is a political choice. Governments must enforce policies that restrict raw minerals exports. It's already happening, like I said in the earlier answer that I gave to you, Emmanuella. It's already happening that governments are beginning to demand that, no, we want value addition. Like the president of Zimbabwe that say the raw materials stays in Zim. Yeah, you have to bring the processing to us, not export the materials. That's a good move. That's a good move. So there have to be more stringent laws that restrict exports of unprocessed minerals, and there should also be political will to incentivize local processing. Yeah, if there are no incentives and imported, just like other commodity booms that we have seen, it was cheaper to process outside than to process in Africa or in that country, for instance. So Africa leaders, politicians, must incentivize local processing and generate very strict laws for exporting raw materials. That is number one. Then number two, we have skill gaps. Yeah, that we cannot shy away from. Skills and technology. We need metallurgists in Africa. Our geologists needs to be given attention. We need to build capacity of process engineers. We need more ESG specialists. We need technicians that are local, in Africa. So we must build local competency. That is not negotiable. If we solely depend on external expertise, then it's still a mirage that we want to do value addition in Africa. So we have to pay attention, like we are doing at WiM-Africa, focusing on the Next Gen Women in Mining initiative, because these are the engineers, these are the experts that will drive skills and that will drive technology and that will drive value addition, that will make value addition possible in Africa. So I am involved in a lithium processing project, and I know the skills gap that we've got there. What we must see is that Africa has the expertise. We only need the systems to be in place to ensure that the expertise is being driven, and then the support of government. Then I would mention also one key issue that is an impediment to value addition and to growth in Africa, which is infrastructure. That's industrial infrastructure. This is lacking. Processing plants require energy to run. We have offices across Africa, and just to run an office and there is no constant supply of energy could be very frustrating. Now go on an industrial scale. If there is no good roads, no stable energy supply, water logistics, these are infrastructures that are very, very critical for beneficiation. Otherwise, beneficiation will remain a dream that Africa will keep dreaming about and never comes to pass. Yeah. Over to you, Emmanuella.
Thank you, Dr. Comfort. We see your work and your footprints, and you are leading a major lithium processing project and other beneficiation initiatives. What are some practical lessons or insights you can share from that experience?
Yeah, it's a lot, Emmanuella, like I mentioned earlier, about skills gap and technology. One of the biggest insights is that Africa is ready for industrial transformation, yes, but coordination is missing. We still have a long way to go regarding coordination. We must engage government early. We must integrate ESG from the beginning, not at the middle when projects have already commenced and we have challenges and we are now running to quickly do some damage control. No, ESG must be integrated from the beginning of the project, that is during project conceptualization. And then we must build partnerships with universities for skills. That is a way that WiM-Africa is also working towards and discussing with institutions, technical institutions, universities, polytechnics, to see how to incorporate relevant skills regarding the mining industry. And also, another challenge I see during my work is that most of our partners and key players need to understand that we always need to develop bankable feasibility studies to attract financing. If it's not bankable, financing is a mirage. Lithium processing is highly technical, but it is achievable for African countries that are willing to invest in the long term and driven locally with, of course, support from international bodies. Yes, Ella.
Thank you for that, Dr. Comfort. Now let's digress towards gender. Across the continent, women and young professionals are still underrespected in critical mineral sectors. What barriers do they face? And what structural reforms do we need to unlock their participation?
Thank you, Ella. Thank you, Ella. The barriers are enormous. The barriers are structural, in nature. They are systemic in nature. Limited access to capital and equipment is number one. That woman continues to be an artisanal miner using her bare hands to source the minutest gram of gold there by the riverbank every day, 7 days a week, to be able to feed her family, to be able to restore her livelihood, and has no means of scaling that business. She's there first to sustain her livelihood, but then that's okay. Scaling is another different challenge entirely. So limited access to capital, to financing, to equipment is a major thing. Then licensing. You see, there was a country I did some work, and to obtain a license to do things properly is $20,000 in 2025. It's $20,000. And this woman can barely even make $20 a day, $20. She can barely make $20 a day from the activity that she's involved in on a daily basis. So she cannot afford licensing. So that needs to be looked into. It's a structural issue, and our peculiarity in Africa cannot be the same with the Western world. So we have to see gender as a critical part of mining, and that we have to take care of licensing capabilities for women, for cooperatives, women cooperatives. So in that country, what we decided to do was to form, even with the forming development of the cooperative, it was still a challenge. It was still a challenge to get licensing for even as a cooperative. So that should be looked into. Then gender stereotypes about technical roles is another matter across the globe anyway, not only in Africa. Then there is a lack of mentorship. There is a lack of mentorship and field opportunities. I have on my phone lots of geologists, female geologists, seeking opportunities, seeking internship, seeking avenues to even have field experience based on the course that they read in school. And when this lingers, after a while, they just switch into something else, maybe being a secretary in a food processing company or in something completely different from the course that she had studied. So for me, I think the lack of opportunities for field, internships and for placements in factories, in industries that will make for a good opportunity for women is lacking. Yeah. So then safety concerns in mines is another thing. At WiM-Africa, you can see we have launched about, I think as of today, is even about 3 programs that has to do with safety. We have now joined the 16 days of global advocacy on gender-based violence that is being anchored by the United Nations Women. We have now fully joined that. We also have our project MSafe, that is mine safety. Due to the deaths that we have at the mining sites in different locations across Africa, we have that program ongoing. And we have the Silent 15, which is a remembrance day. Silent 15 of Bilali Koto. It's a remembrance day that we remember over 48 women who died in Bilali Koto in Mali, trying to survive, trying to source livelihood. So safety concerns in mines is an issue at both artisanal level and even industrial scale. And also, I think that women are ready. I think that women are ready. The youths are ready. They are hungry, hungry for opportunities, seeking assistance on how to really be involved, in the mining space. So the systems around them must evolve to be able to accommodate them by and large. Over to you.
So how does WIM Africa's 7 points program agenda support women and youth to play meaningful roles in this new energy transition economy?
Yeah, you see, Emmanuella, our 7 PPA has become very popular, and we're still driving the popularity across communities in Africa, most especially mining communities and countries who are fully involved in mining. Our 7 PPA, which is 7-point program agenda, is designed for this moment where the whole world is looking up to Africa for critical mineral sourcing. It's designed for this moment, and we are capturing 7 key areas in the 7 PPAs. The first is women-led value addition and market linkages. Yes, we want women to lead value addition. We want to provide structure, systems, advocacy, whatever it is that it takes to be able to drive that. We have another agenda that is focused on women-only zones and cooperatives. Like I mentioned earlier, through cooperatives, women are able to become stronger. Instead of working in silos alone, they are able to become stronger together and be able to drive small scale, upgrade whatever small scale it is that they are operating. Then we have the ESG and climate resilience also agenda, where we are driving environmental, social, and governance structures and advocacy all across Africa, both in the mid-tier and senior companies, and also ASM field. And then, we have the next generation women in mining, which is really, really dear to me for our youths, because I see in the next medium to long term, let's say 10 years, if we do things right today, we would have a crop of experts that are women that are ready to lead in Africa in the next 10 years. It will be so successful. So we have that program ongoing as a response to the current issues in Africa. We also have the Research and Data Hub. We have noticed, we made that an agenda. That's WiM-Africa Research and Data Hub, which is agenda number 6, yeah, which focuses that on data collection. There is no data. We have noticed that there is no sufficient data regarding women in mining, even though they occupy significant number in the ASM field. So we have that ongoing, and there's a lot of interest, and we are still drawing partners from academia, from other spheres to make that work at WiM-Africa. Then we have also the digital and media advocacy, which is part of what we are doing today with you, Emmanuella. We are using the digital space to advocate for changes that we want to see, to drive, the information we want to disseminate, and to be able to call the attention of policymakers, stakeholders, industries, global attention to the women in mining issues across Africa. So we provide a full ecosystem from grassroots cooperatives upward to national advocacy and to continental leadership, so that we digitally scale visibility. So we are engineering a new kind of mining economy through our plan, through our WiM-Africa Action Plan 2025 to 2030. This is the first of its kind on the continent, and through that plan, we are already driving change. It's just launched less than 3 months ago, but the impact is being felt already, and we are driving the change and working hard to make sure that is being implemented fully. Then, before we move forward, I would also want to mention the WiM-Africa Institute that is currently being conceptualized across different countries in Africa. We are now having an institute that will be able to take care of the skills gap, that will be able to be a platform where a lot of these gaps that we have noticed would be able to be tackled properly. So, and that will include all our women at different levels, even in the boardroom and at the pits. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Comfort. If you were advising African governments today, what would be your top policy priorities for ensuring that Africa benefits sustainably from the critical minerals boom?
Well, my top priority, I would say it's gender, yeah, because I am I am all about gender right now in the continent, in the mining space. So for me, it will be gender responsive mining laws. Yeah, we just must go back and look at our laws and make sure that they are responsive to gender issues. Then on a general economic scale, I can now say restrictions should be made on raw minerals exports. More restrictions should be made, and more value addition structures and systems should be set up in different localities. And then I would say there should be incentives for local processing, as we mentioned earlier. These are priority. We cannot stop export of raw materials and then do nothing. We must have local processing being incentivized. And then we must have community accountability. ESG must be at the center. Yeah. And then financing mechanism for women and for youths, and then capacity building. Everything that we have discussed, must be captured in policies as priority. Capacity building, skills and technology must be inclusive in such policies, and those policies must really be bold to tackle these issues of gender, and it should be future focused. So we can look at today and develop a policy just for today, but if we look up to the future in 10 years, what should Africa look like? From that standpoint, we are able to develop policies that could respond to even futuristic challenges that could come up. Yeah.
Now, as a leader deeply involved in ESG, value addition, and continental gender advocacy, what is your vision for Africa's mining future over the next decade?
Well, my vision, again, goes back to gender. Yeah. My vision would be a gender-balanced mining economy. Yes, it will be a gender-balanced mining economy. And this vision is also driven from my work at Women in Mining Africa. So if we have more women today being given the attention that it deserves, building skills, creating opportunities, creating internships, having technical institutes built in different countries that tackles mining, supporting WiM-Africa Institute in different countries to be able to set up mini processing plants that serves as laboratories for young girls and youths to come in and learn. If we are able to do that, then the future is bright. The future will be brighter. than whatever plan that there is. So there has to be gender balanced mining economy, and this can be possible through governments partnering with WiM-Africa, WiM-Africa's vision for 2030. And then, well, I can add a value added and a climate resilient economy for Africa as a vision that should be also, so that we move Africa from extraction to transformation. So we can no longer continue to be suppliers of raw materials. We must become suppliers of finished products. Africa must become suppliers of finished products, suppliers of technology, and also innovation. We need a political shift to be able to actualize that. Over to you, Emmanuella.
Thank you, Dr. Comfort. Now, before we close, what message would you give to women, students, and young professionals across Africa who want to be part of this emerging critical minerals era, but don't know where to begin?
Well, my message, Emmanuella, even to you also, this is your moment. This is our moment in Africa. This is your moment. If you're a young woman, young African, young male, female, doesn't matter. This is your moment in Africa. The world is moving, is transitioning, and the minerals required for that transition are in your backyard. So this is your moment. If we can build capacity, if you get interested and build capacity now, if young people will inherit an industry that is modern, that is profitable, then they have to be interested in building capacity. We have to be interested in relevant courses that is associated to this opportunity that we have, that the whole world is looking at Africa. So do not wait for permission. Do not wait for endorsement. As a young African, don't wait for endorsement. Don't wait for permission. Don't wait for opportunities to come to you. You go get the opportunity. You go build capacity. Build the strength that you need to be able to be, or to be able to contribute meaningfully to the industrial revolution coming into Africa. Take courses. Take courses. You know, we see a lot of youths going towards fields that are easier, music. You know, I met someone who was a graduate of mining engineering, a young man, 23 years old, and says, well, there are no opportunities, so I want to become an artist. I want to start to sing, you know. Not a bad thing, but we must take our future in our hands as Africans, as young Africans. So I will advise that you should take relevant courses and don't give up. Look for opportunities. Apply for internships far and wide. If it does not occur in your locality, look outward and apply for internships. Join networks like the Women in Mining Africa. Yeah. Join WiM-Africa in your locality or at the national level or even at the continental level. We have memberships that you are free to join. You don't have to be a member of a local body before you join the continental membership. So join networks, look for your miners association, join, get involved so that you can position yourself for the opportunities that is emerging in the critical mineral space in Africa. Thank you, Emmanuella.
Dr. Comfort, thank you for sharing such profound insights and for framing Africa's critical minerals agenda through the lens of sustainability, gender inclusion, and long-term prosperity. Your perspective brings clarity to why Africa must not only participate in the global energy transition, but shape it, lead it, and benefit from it. To our viewers, today's conversation is a reminder that the future of mining in Africa It's not just about resources. It's about people, policy, innovation, and the courage to rethink old systems. As we move deeper into the era of clean energy and new technologies, women and youth must not stand at the margins of opportunity. They must be at the center of decision making, investment, and leadership. On behalf of WiM-Africa, we thank you for joining us for this important episode. We invite you to continue engaging with our work, follow our programs across the continent, and be part of the movement enabling women to lead Africa's mining transformation. I am Emmanuella, and this has been the WiM-Africa Interview Series. Until next time, stay inspired, stay committed, and stay part of Africa's mining future. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.